Well, hi and welcome to Glitch 2600. Who am I? Well, I'm Brian, aka Glitch, your friendly host through all things geekery. And normally you are here for Vlogmas for a Glitch Bite, but tonight we're taking a break from our normal Vlogmas 2020. And you can ask, what is Vlogmas 2020? Well, if you go back to day one, you'll see that's just a way for us content creators to go and bring something new to you every day in December. But today, I'm doing my happy hour. We normally do our happy hours and have a little fun glitch happy hour, normally at least once a week, at least twice a month. But today, I'm really excited about 3 Iowa craft beers. I'm rocking my Iowa craft beer shirt, and I'm really excited, especially about one of them today that I'm going to hold off towards the end and talk about because I want to reveal that one. I had a great talk with with the brewer and the owner, and I'm just really excited about that. We were going to cover 4. I decided to back one off because I just don't want to impede on the other one, and I want to give the other their own time, and that's the Parkside, and we'll talk on that. But really, here, I just realized I didn't pop some on. Yay, the joys of being live. So, as I said, welcome. This is for this Vlogmas, we are enjoying our happy hour, and we're going to talk about all things Iowa craft beer. And that's what we're going to do. If you're new here, please say hi. We want to know you're here. We want to get to know and see what you're drinking and what you're enjoying as we geek out on these different craft beers. So, tonight, like I said, we're going to cover 3 different craft beers. And they're actually relatively far from each other. I did have a stout a little bit ago, one called About Intros, which is completely other side of the tracks tonight. But today we're going to have a holiday ale, a pale ale, and a cream ale. And the cream ale is going to be last. And like I said, I have a lot of great info for that. But having said that, again, welcome and say hi. Helps if I actually bring this over. I didn't realize, that's what happens when you set stuff up. When it's Christmas time, you're getting all your shopping done and all that. I realized I didn't plug in my actual phone to be able to show you guys some stuff. So, having said that, we've got this all lined up. And we have our Untapped signed in, set up, and all of that fun stuff. Which if you don't know, you can follow us on Untapped at Glitch 2600. If I pop that up, you'll be able to see what we cover each day. So today's we're going to start with our Pale Ale. And that one's by Twisted Vine. Let's see if we can get it to focus. Lately it's really, there we go. That's a nice little pale ale. It's a 5.9 ABV, 73 IBU. I've told you before, I don't always subscribe to the IBU. And why? Because in certain things like hazies, they're so unfiltered and they're so fruit forward, you can't really tell that bitterness. And because of that, we're going to pop that up. Well, not that one. I'm going to pop up that one so you guys know which one to follow. Because of that, I don't always subscribe to it. It does come into play when you're kind of going between IPAs and double IPAs and then triple IPAs, which the difference between a single IPA and a double IPA is its alcohol content for the most part. Once you hit 7%, you're in that double IPA. Sometimes that does mean more hops. Sometimes it doesn't. And then a triple is not an actual distinction, as we found out if you follow the Boozy Banter podcast. But in this one, all that means is even more. So if it's even higher, then it's a triple. Not tripel, but triple IPA. So LE versus EL. Those are 2 different styles when it comes to triple versus triple. It's kind of like tomato versus tomato, but if they were different. So having this one, I'm really excited to try this one. And I've got my little sampler glasses. And we always talk about what type of glasses to put our stuff in. We're going to grab from the handy bar. Actually, I just realized I got my Westo opener, so why not bust that out? Because I never bust that out. We're going to open it up. And take a look at the color. Take a look at all the fun parts of it. I'm going to go ahead and pour that one out. Pour one out for me. Pour one out for the craft beer kids. So if we were to cut on over to that, you can kind of see what that looks like. Check out that color. Does that not look great? I mean, you can kind of see it's a little dark on that one where it's a little brighter in real life. But let's go ahead and, you always love to see the craft beer crew. They're fun. We used to call them the craft beer kids. Now we realize that they were not. We didn't want to show them underage. But let's bring up the Glitch Happy Hour on our Untapped. If we bring that up and bring up Paul's Pail, I want to talk on that and show you guys a little bit on there. So as we bring that up, as I said already, it's a 5.9 ABV, 73 IBU. Friends have rated a 3.5. It seems to say pretty standard, close to there. And it's a standard pale ale. And we've talked about how beers come from two major styles of genres for the most part. I mean, there's lots of different ones, but they generally come from lagers, versus those ales. Of course, my help if my stuff actually comes up properly. But, that's your major distinction there. So we're in that pale ale, sound, and it's from Twisted Vine Brewery in West Des Moines, Iowa. I've been there. Really great place. A lot of fun. They have a 4-player Pac-Man, or at least they have. They do some great stuff from events and just really good people. You can kind of see, I already showed you the label up there, so we'll just pop that back up so you can kind of see it. It's a lot of fun. It's a play on the pale and being outside. It uses Chinook hops, and I really enjoy it. You can kind of see some of the fun stuff that people have done in the background. It is part of the Iowa Craft Beer Advent Calendar, but most people will say it's hoppy, subtle, smooth, and mouthfeel is earthy. I don't like when they use mouthfeel as a descriptor because to me that's not much of a descriptor. That's almost like saying blue. Like mouthfeel is how it feels in your mouth. So let's take a quick sip. And again, I want to show that color. So let's pop that over so you can kind of see it there. You can see it's pretty light in color. We'll cut back. But yeah, I definitely, in this case, earthy, I would say more peaty you do get that kind of almost like a dirt flavor to it, which is not necessarily uncommon in that pale ale area. It just hits that part of your mouth that you would almost think if you were chewing on dirt. But if you enjoy dirt, remember as a kid, especially as boys, where we'd grow up and supposedly like to make mud pies and all that, which I wasn't much of that, but it's funny. I don't mind those types of beers now. That is a lot what a pale ale is like. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube, just know you can say hi. You can talk. We'll pop it up on the screen. You can show all the people and share this out. It's definitely not a problem. But let's bring up. Normally I have my stuff to talk about it, but you can kind of see there. What I love about Untapped is it does break down those styles, and you can see the source that it comes from. And normally they source that out pretty good. We've talked about the Long Ride before. We've talked about Pseudo Sue. We've talked about a few of these that are in that same aspect. But you can see where they characterize it as floral. Now, I will say fruity isn't always what I'd get from a pale ale. I'd see that more on the on that hazy side. That's where you'll a lot of times see a little bit more fruit forward. You'll see a lot more of that juicy, talk on it. It's not that fruity isn't necessarily what happens there, but I tone that to other styles than I do pale ale myself. But floral is pretty, that is a good explanation for it, because sometimes earthy maybe isn't the best descriptor. Floral would be a little bit more. When you walk in, it's almost like, when you walk into a good florist and you smell it and it smells good. But you know how you can almost, because 70% of your taste comes from your olfactory, from your nose area, when you smell that, you can almost taste it. You almost taste the rose. It's not like you want to go out and chew a rose, but sometimes that's what you get with this pale ale. And that's what I'm getting a little bit here, is a little bit as if it was a rose, if I was chewing a little bit on a rose. And that's not bad, because it tastes good. Piney, resinous, sulfur, is a pretty common one because it's not that far from the IPA setup from that India Pale Ale. That's why it's a pale ale. It's an American pale ale. So it's going to have some of those same aspects. I'm not going to say this is as bitter as I would consider a 73. I really need to look up exactly how they measure that because, you know, as a science geek myself, I'm sure there's a whole aspect on why, where, how they do that. But in my case, I'm going to chalk that up to most of the time it's crap. You know, it's a good way to compare if you don't like stuff that is very bitter. It is a good way for you to, you know, compare them up. If you're looking at two IPAs and you don't normally like bitter, then it is a good way to back that down. If you're looking at two like styles or similar, it is a good way to back that down if you like a little bit more of that bitter or not. I will say that. But if you try to compare a double IPA or not even a double, but a hazy to a non-hazy, sometimes you'll see the hazy says it's a 53 IBU, but the IPA or the pale in this case might be a 73. You know, in that case it would be right, but if the IPA says, you know, 50 and the hazy says 75, I guarantee you that hazy 90% of the time is not going to taste nearly as bitter as a normal IPA will, which is why I say it's a good way to jump in. If you like those fruitier style beers, a hazy is a good way to get into that. In most cases, a lot of times those hazies are fruit forward, but this IPA is going to be much closer to this pale ale is going to be much closer to an IPA, and if not, just a little bit more smooth from that point of view. And I do love me an IPA. I grew up in the IPAs when I got into it, when I started my journey into craft beer, you know, when I used to travel around for my work. It was up in Seattle and got indoctrinated into it because I showed up there and asked for a Bud Light and learned really quickly that was not the way to do it. And they luckily took pity on me at one brewery or at one pub. They had 160 beers on tap and they almost put me through, I think, 160 beers in 3 days. I learned really quick, you know, that I liked IPAs and pale ales and that style. It grew. Just like coffee. I didn't used to like black coffee, but now I do. So I would say this is a really good beer. You know, for my ranking, I would agree with most people because I'm going to pop back there because you know how I always like to rate them. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back in. I do need to pay for the other type of Untapped where I can rank these in a more sub fashion. This bottle is really good. And I'm going to give it, based on my style, a 3.25. It is very good. It is, keep in mind, to me now in my new style and new way of doing it, actually I might still go ahead and give it a 3.5. It's growing on me the more I sip it. But a 2.5 would be average to me, is how I score it now. If it's a 0 to 5 is my range, 2.5 would be middle of the road, and this is still above average. I find most Iowa beers to be above average. Very rarely is it such a miss for me that, you know, that if you put coconut in it, that coconut is just too overpowering. Sometimes the peanut butter, I like a good peanut butter. Sometimes the miss for me is when there's not enough peanut butter, but that's my taste, you know, when it comes to the style. You know, I'm going to back that back down. See, this is what it comes to tasting. It's still a really good beer. So when I say 3.25, that doesn't mean it's bad. You might actually even love it even more. I think this one's pretty good. I'm going to say it's pretty hoppy. I'm not going to use mouthfeel. It is smooth. We're going to go and add in that floral taste because I do like that as a descriptor for it. It definitely has a lot of floral tones to it. And to me, that's a lot more correct in the way that you want to say that. So we're going to pop that in there and pop back over. Oh, wow. I got all sorts of badges today. Lucky me. Don't forget you can follow along and see how we've rated past ones. But no, this is a really good one. And again, just to show you what that looks like for the coloring with the craft beer kids, I think that one's pretty good. I don't know about you, but I found that one to be highly, highly enjoyable. And we're going to go ahead and crack open our next one. And for fun, we're going to pop over and see that one. So like I said, really good. Twisted Vine, West Des Moines. They make solid beers. Solid, place to go. They do a lot of stuff with their events. I've really liked their triple in the past. I will say that their triple ESB has been one I really enjoy. This pale ale has been really good. It would be nice by the fire, by a fire pit. It's something I would drink out while hanging out in the yard. It's winter, so it's not necessarily my winter style, but such is life. But now I want to show you guys this one. So if I pop this off, we're going to reveal. I figured this time they should have a little Christmas sweater going on here. And, before I do the reveal. So let's just pull it down slowly. And we've got Worth Brewing's Classic Holiday Ale. I'm going to go ahead and pour that one out. This one is amazingly lighter than I thought it would be. Just to give you a quick hint. So we're going to cut on over. Let you get a little hint there. More because I want to drink this one out. But having bringing that up, should have really brought up a second or a third sample. But I wanted to talk. I did talk to Noel or to Worth Brewing and got a little bit of information on this Noel Classic Holiday Ale out of Northwood, Iowa. So let's go ahead and pop back over here. I'm going to go ahead and pour myself a little bit on this one because I poured one out for the craft beer crew. Just to show that color again. It's really light and really good. And if I were to cross over and show this and bring this back on the here, it's a German or Belgian strong golden ale, 8.5 ABV, and there isn't an IBU match to it. They say it's someone said Belgian-y, sweet, boozy, malty, and bitter. So I am really anxious to try this one out and see. Like I said, out of Northwood, Iowa. But one of the things that they did mention on here, which helps if I bring that up, there we go, is from the brewer themselves, as I reached out to them, they said, we first made Noel a few years ago in a small batch. We took the first runnings of a high-gravity wort from a full batch of Pilsner. This year's version is a full batch for the holiday season. I was hoping for a triple style Belgian ale. It is a bit drier than I would like, but it has a dedicated legion of fans. We are honored and excited to be included in this year's Advent box, and we know that there are a lot of Iowans in the lower populated section of the state that don't know we've been here for 15 years. I didn't know they've been there for 15 years, and that's just crazy to me. And really sad I haven't been out there to check them out, so they're on my list. And then they wanted me to let them know if I had any particular questions. In this case, I think that's great, and I'm definitely going to run out there and check out their beer. It's on my list this year to get through stuff and to make a tour of more breweries than just the ones I've kind of got around Des Moines and Dubuque and Iowa City area and Cedar Rapids. As you saw, we've done stuff with Clockworks as we have the sign back there. And we've done some stuff and lives from Confluence. This year we plan to expand beyond that. And as we do stuff with our Boozy Banter podcast, or as I do stuff with my friend's Boozy Banter podcast, let me clarify that. I plan on hopefully bringing a few more of this information into that and helping them out at that aspect, because if you haven't caught it, that podcast is amazing. Brian, the other Brian, and Matt just have a ton of information, cover tons of different areas. Look for it on Apple, Spotify, all those. You'll hear me there in the background, so that disembodied voice is me in the background. And it's just a good fun. But we plan on bringing that in. So having said that, I really am impressed they've been around for 15 years. Iowa's craft beer scene has only been around for so long. So knowing there's a brewery that I didn't even follow or know about for that long, it just shows how in a niche area and distribution, it takes a lot of money. And that's something we're going to talk about with the last beer. After talking with that brewer, something that we wanted to talk about and bring up was what it takes to bring in and distribute a beer, and what happens when you're opening that beer, what you're supporting, what you're doing. At that aspect, you should understand the difference between you buying, nothing against Bud Light, nothing against the new Glarises out there, nothing against Boulevard or Firestone Walker or any of those, especially since they're, some are bigger than others. It's when you're supporting a craft brewery, and especially micro or even somewhat macro craft breweries, is anytime you open that bottle, the stuff that came into making that. And we'll talk on that a little bit later. But you should understand that every time you open that bottle, you're really, helping actually make the next bottle. You're helping get that distribution. You're helping them create and do more for you. And you're also helping support their family. So twofold, they do a great job. Show them. It's like leaving a really good tip. So every time you open that bottle, the more bottles you open from them, the more you're leaving them a really good tip. So you should definitely keep leaving them that great tip, which is why I'm going to go and try this one and see what I think of it, and hopefully buy more. And, a Belgian strong golden ale. I come to expect a certain type of flavor from Belgian styles. And it's almost like that nutty flavor. You always get a little bit of that nutty. And this one does not disappoint. I am ecstatic with this beer. I know what they said on there, and that it wasn't up to exactly to what they were hoping for this year, but they knew they had, a loyal set of fans. I'm sad I didn't try last year's. I'm anxious to try next year's. This is an exquisite form of a Belgian golden ale. I mean, look at how golden that is. I mean, clear, super clear, so golden. It's even a little lighter in real life. If I hit it with a little bit more light, you would see behind Tapper and Hoppy how much more there is there. But this is an exquisite type of Belgian strong ale. The descriptors that people put on this, Belgian-y, still don't know if that's really a descriptor, but we'll go with what we got. Sweet, boozy, malty, and bitter. I'm not going to say bitter. I will say malty. It definitely has a little bit of that nutty flavor to me. Stuff that I expect from a Belgian style. It is a good, if not really great, representation of a Belgian style. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that up because I want you guys to see what other people have talked about on there. And I want you to see my scoring on there. Just show you the label a little bit more. We'll pop that up so you can see it again. See if it focuses. If not, it doesn't matter. You can see it there. They even say on the back, inside, grain, water, hops, yeast, and spices. So exactly what goes into a beer most of the time there. This is a complex brew made with concentrated wort made from our Pilsner brew. Just like we said before. It's really good. I actually thoroughly enjoy this beer. And having said that, I'm going to go ahead and rank it through because this one really caught my attention. I was not expecting to be as excited on this beer as I am. And, for me, you've heard in the past shows that I've been knocking down some of my scale a little bit. You saw that the last one was a 3.25, and that was a really good beer. I enjoyed it. I will still keep drinking it. I'm going to seek out this beer, which I keep going back and forth on this one. Really need a little subpart. I'd like to give it a 3.9. I'm going to give it a 4. And, we're going to go beyond that. It is malty. I'm not going to say boozy. I get it. It's 8.5. It doesn't taste boozy. To me, boozy is a little bit overpowering in its alcohol content. This is not it. It is definitely a very good Belgian style. It is something I would 100% go out there and grab. The pale ale is too, but if I have the choice between the two, this is going to be it. But that's me for my style. So I'm going to, we're going to add in a little bit. To me, Belgian styles always have a little bit of nutty flavor. What about you? Do you think Belgian styles bring out a nutty flavor? Feel free to comment. Let me know what you think. Is there a Belgian style you want me to pair this against someday? I'll go track them down, try them together, and do that live. Why not? But I'm going to give that a little bit of a nutty craft beer tent. And I think that one's really good. I enjoyed that one. They're just going to get a 4. It takes a lot to get to that coveted 5. A lot. But this one's really good. I do enjoy it. So cheers. Good job, Worth. You might not have thought you did as well this year, but I'm really anxious to try next year's if this is what you think is not as good this year. You might get into that 4.25, 4.5 for me. Who knows? Maybe you'll be a 5. All depends on taste at the time. It is a little subjective. So, again, welcome and thanks again for anyone who's joined me today. Normally, we do our Geek Outs where we talk about all things geekery, and you can ask any of your computer and tech questions, along with photography and videography. We've been doing Glitch Bites as part of our Vlogmas, and that's where we just do anything from 15 minutes or less tips on everything from backup to tips and tricks for your watch, and how to do fast replies and some quick tips for your phone. And you can follow along with that. You can still ask those questions tonight. It's just, this is our craft beer time. We have been thinking about spinning that off to its own channel and show. If you think that's something that we should do, then let us know. Otherwise, keep going. From my Doctor Who side, we'd say allons-y, onward and upward. And that brings me to, as we set this to the side, the coup de grace. I'm going to cut over here because I don't like when you guys see me just pop off screen. And I want to steal this one again for myself to drink. And it's good. But I want to talk about this last beer that I've been holding out on 30 minutes to get here. I get it. It's been a long stream. But having said that, this is going to be the what I suspect is the best part of the stream tonight. I'm super excited. So much so, I put it in the craft beer Batman Christmas sweater because I didn't want to give too much away. And I've been so excited to try this one. So very excited. I'm going to go ahead and finish this one off. But we're going to talk. I'm going to pop over on here just to get it prepped because I don't want to screw this one up at all. Again, the people were so nice, and we'll talk about that. But we're going to do a quick reveal. A little, I should really almost get the fun, almost stripper music for it, but we'll do that for a later show. But we're going to pull off the Batman, as is the night, and really great. We're going to talk about our own Limestone Brewers Pleasant Street Ale. Cream ale. Come on. That's what happens when you have face focus. And I just love that label. Nice thing, the brewer owner, he was a paper boy himself, so you kind of see that in there. And I'm so excited to try and talk on this. We had a nice hour-long conversation where we just geeked out and we got to talk about other stuff that they're working on. I'm 100% driving up there as soon as I can. And I would tell you, if you are even close to Osage, Iowa, which is northern, it's 2 hours, 15 minutes from me. If I speed, it's probably 2 hours. They do axe throwing, have awesome looking pizzas. But on top of it, they do fat tire biking, which if you follow along, I love biking. I have the craft beer kids and showing that on there. Nicest people I've ever talked to. Tony there is amazing. Laura, I talked with her on email and she was great. I cannot say enough great things about this brewery just as a people. And when you watch, if you go to their website, just do a search for Limestone Brewers. You get a nice walkthrough of their site and get to see the people. They are just really good people and the brewery looks awesome. I'm just sad it's not even closer because I'd probably spend almost every other weekend there, if not every weekend there. Just from talking to them, I can't say anything great or anything more great about them as a people. So I'm just excited because great people make great beer. I know that seems like, oh, 100% judge the beer on the beer. And I will. But I will tell you, great people tend to make great beer. A wonderful brewery, if they start out with that intention, they always do good. So, cream ale. And they gave us a ton of great information. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that out, because I want you to see. And I'm pouring it partially because I get to get 2 sips where no one else gets to. So we're going to pop that in, cut on over, let you see. Well, I pour one out for me. And then we're going to hit our notes. Because, again, this is a... I want to go ahead and show that there. This is a 4.9 ABV, 18 IBU, and there's so much science behind this that it's wonderful. The thought process behind it, if you are new to craft beer, where I normally have said, hey, if you are new to craft beer, try a hazy. I'm going to now say something entirely different. If you are in Iowa and new to craft beer, from just talking to them, I suspect you should try this. And I wasn't wrong. Not gonna lie. This is great. When I said great people, good people make great beer, I'm really anxious to try their other stuff, and we're going to talk on that. This is wonderful. I'm not normally a Busch Light fan. I'm not normally the other, but if you are into that style, Busch Light, if you're into Michelob, all those, a great starter into craft beer is, and as we were talking on, the reason why you like those, they leave sugars in there. We all have a sweet tooth. And a cream ale is a great way to jump into that. Tony was telling me there, and he's the brewer and brewed this, does great. That's one of the things for this. There is some residual sugar. That cream ale is a good stepper in there. And he lives in the heart of Busch Light country. You should know in Iowa, I think we pretty much keep Busch Light in business. And up in northern Iowa, especially, I went to school at UNI. I can tell you, Busch Light is king in the area. He lives in that area. And people come in, and this is what they order. It's a great way to start into it. But I will say, as a craft beer drinker, I'm going to go one step farther. Yes, it is definitely a lighter beer. But I am not going to say it tastes like Busch Light. It has flavor. I'm not a big Busch Light fan. I'm not a big Miller Lite fan. And my family members know this. I pick on my brothers all the time when they bring in Michelob Light, Michelob Ultra, or Miller Lite, all those. I pick on them. This would be a good one for them to try. But having said that, I will drink this beside them. I will gladly hold up a glass of this. I'm sad that I only have one bottle. I am definitely driving up to Osage and having more. And we'll talk about some other stuff you should try there. But this is wonderful. For a cream, I wasn't expecting to like something so light. And we talked on the phone, and we're going to drink along, but I only had the one bottle, and I wanted to open up with you guys so you could see my reaction. Wow. Wow. Good job, Tony. If you're watching, I 100% approve. This is a great, and I'm really anxious about that sour we talked about to see how that goes. When that comes out, I hope you email me and tell me when that comes out, because I just want to try it. Just based on our chat, I want to see about this sour that's coming. But this cream ale, as they talk on it, just reading from the back, and Em and I already talked on it, is American grains brewed with a trace of traditional hops, smooth with a touch of sweetness. And that sweetness. Brewed for a simpler time when American dream fit inside a white picket fence and paperboys rode with their bikes. I'm going to pop this up because I'm going to pop this part away so we can see for a second. And I love Laura popped on. Hi, Laura. Thanks again for hooking us up so we can chat. then pop that back up because I want people to know where this beer comes from. Again, if we talk on it, so much information. If you go there, they have axe throwing. Axe throwing. I experienced my first axe throwing with my essentially cousin-in-law. It's funny, we were best friends all through high school, and then come to find out he's related to the wife on there. So he, took me there for the first time. I'm super excited to come try it. They work with the water that they already have. They work with the limestone. They don't manipulate their water, hardly at all. They work with that limestone, which as you know from me from a wine side, when we talk about it, grapes struggle and they do better. I think a brewer that can work with those mineralities, that limestone, that dryness from it, that can bring out that maltiness in beers, I highly respect that. From just the wine side of me. The beer side of me thinks that's really cool. When you're not necessarily pulling stuff out there, working with that water, the stuff that makes it unique for them. You have the Lagunitas that they base their stuff where they're at. And they've gotten bigger over time. The really good breweries that I know how to base their brewery around the water where they're at. Water is a key ingredient. We all talk about hops. We all talk about the malts and different parts in there. But water is another key ingredient of all things craft beer. And they're working with a limestone-rich craft beer, or limestone-rich water, which for them, for IPAs, with a normal IPA, means you're going to be more malt forward. And they accept that and they embrace that. So I'm really anxious to try their IPAs. I'm not going to lie, that actually really draws me to the IPA. I like malty. I don't know that I've had a whole lot of malty IPAs. Once Tony told me that, it perked my ears up. I was extremely excited. You saw, if you would have been on video, you would have saw a big smile on my face. I like malty. It's just my taste palette. It's just how I am. So for me, going up there and trying some of this malty IPA is really exciting. But they don't do a whole lot of manipulation. I'm bringing up my notes. They have a harder water. It's good for a relatively malty beer. They don't use an RO system, so when it comes to IPAs, that's going to be where they come out a little bit malty. They were saying for us, little breweries, actually that's a whole other area. I'm going to talk on that in a second. But, like I said, they have their Devil's Punch Bowl that's coming, Axe Brewing. Pleasant Street is a good introductory beer, but I'm going to tell you, as someone who's been doing craft beer, I still enjoy this. I'd sit out in my yard. I could see myself easily with with my bag set. I play bags all the time. I play it, every Monday, with a group and find that very enjoyable. This is something I would drink and play bags with. It's just really good, really smooth, and really wonderful. I do get that malty and just on the hint on the end, just that little bit of dry that I would expect from something that's using a little bit of limestone in their water. I like that. That's me. It's my style. I think I found one of my new favorite breweries just because I like that dry style. I like a dry wine. I like a dry red. You'll see me, if I can go, when you drink a bottle of wine, you go on the end, that's a good dry wine. I like that with my beers. Don't get me wrong, there's every now and then where a good refreshing sour and a good refreshing, any number of Kolsch is a really good refreshing beer during summer. This is still a good refreshing beer, but I like that little bit of dry on the end. I want to know I'm drinking a beer and not water. I don't want my beers to be watery. And this is not watery. This has a good flavor. But it is. It's as if you had... I'm not going to say... It does not taste like a Busch Light to me at all. But it is a good way to bring someone in who likes that sugary content. He's really good about talking about that. As we were going through it. Is, when he was testing from a traditional lager, if you went 100% traditional lager, as we talked about, there's different styles between an ale and a lager. It's the grandfathers of beer. I was talking about that, compare to Miller Lite and realize that there was a lot of residual sugar. When you tried that more traditional style, it just tasted sweeter. And you realize that and built that into the beer to be part of that style for the people, to kind of pull them into that craft beer realm. And once you get, it's like a gateway drug. We were talking and saying, my friends that do wine, they realize they don't joke around that they're not dealers. There's a point where it is, you bring them in, and that's the gateway that gets them into the other ones. They're eventually going to do those oatmeal stouts. They're eventually going to try those IPAs. They're eventually going to go beyond. But this is a great way to pull them in. It's not so much in your face and hits you as hard as an IPA or a double IPA, and it's not as over the top sometimes, in my opinion, as a hazy. And I love a hazy, don't get me wrong. It's just become a little overdone for me. This is a really great, I would 100% grab this all the time. But I love that they keep this from a simpler time and putting that in. Not to go too far into it, because I know they didn't, I don't know how much I was allowed to talk on it. They did do a blind taste test. I'm not going to say the names that they were working with, but they were some bigger breweries. And what I really love is that this beer won out over them. And to me, it's a little bit of a David Goliath, not to pull back to the toppling Goliath type pullback, but I really love that a place that has a hard time, or not hard time, a place that turns out barrels upon barrels upon barrels of beer and is doing that mass production, kind of getting beat out by the local Iowa guys. I really like that. And as we were talking on it, a lot of times as a beer or set of beers, when you look overseas, they have regional ones. They have what's in there. You don't necessarily go to a pub overseas or in Germany and get 160 beers. You normally have the regional ones. You normally have the regional fest. Sometimes Oktoberfest isn't even, when you look at Eyinger and Polliner and all those original Oktoberfest beers when you're in Munich, that's not quite the same. Now you don't have 160 beers on tap. And really the smaller festivals are even a bigger deal than normal Oktoberfest now. They always tell you go there about a week before Oktoberfest and then really enjoy it. And that's on my list. I mean, beer drinker, why not go experience, the real Oktoberfest and, at some point in your life. But having said that, that's what they do. Even in England, in the UK and all those, they have a tendency to have their local pubs, which cover their local beers. So you don't see 160 on tap like you do in the US and more specifically in Iowa. My friends run ones where they have multiples on tap because that's what makes sense for our area right now. In the future, will we have that? I suspect, like Tony and we were talking, he's right. At some point, hopefully there's regional styles. Hopefully you go to Northern Iowa and kind of see this style, and this is one of the breweries. Maybe there's only 2 or 3 instead of 8 billion of them going on. Don't get me wrong, I love Iowa craft beer. I love that there's a lot of breweries and stuff experimenting and stuff going. But I do think at some point we're going to hit a critical mass. COVID's kind of going to push that a little bit more, where we're going to hit that critical mass and things are going to go out a little bit sooner. We're going to hit that from an IT point of view, that .com burst, that bubble burst, probably a little bit earlier. But having said that, I do like that they're experimenting. We have a lot of freedom here in Iowa when it comes to craft beer. Not so much for distribution, but we do have for our brewing styles. And I do think we're going to get, just like he said, to those regional areas that make more sense, that we're going to have a regional style. You're going to find Iowa is based around this, and Northern Iowa is based around this style, and you can kind of go there and see a little less on tap, and it's more those ones. When you go to a normal brewery, or a normal pub, when you go to a brewery, you'll still see their stuff on tap, but when you go to a pub, you'll probably only see so much on tap at that point. And I would love to see someplace like Limestone Brewers be one of the core ones in Northern Iowa, because I could see the style. It is brewed well. It's thought out. They're mindful of their people. If they were the Northern Iowa's beer, then I'm going back home and visiting Northern Iowa and having a little bit more. But let's talk on a few more things. One thing that Tony and I, when we talked about, and I 100% agree with him, is still remember that when you distribute your first beer or that first beer outside of your area, as he was saying, it's almost a $5,000 beer. The marketing that goes into it, the labeling, the canning, the distribution, everything. That beer you open, when we open this bottle, that wasn't me opening a $5, $6, heck, that's not me opening a $20 bottle of beer. That's me opening approximately a $5,000 bottle of beer. There's so much that went into it and so much hope going into that. There's thought into the label. There's thought into the name. There's thought into that distribution, especially when they go beyond. One of the great things about this Advent box that I enjoy is bringing a lot of breweries that I don't always get access to. I didn't know Worth was been there for 15 years. Limestone has been there for 3. And while I poured stuff for them at the Iowa Craft Beer tent during the fair, and I've done their Hickory Scottish Ale, and I've done those. It didn't dawn on me I need to go check out these places as much. And having said that, when they distribute outside their area, a lot of them are self-distributed. They might work with another one and get beyond that. Distribution is hard. I've got a lot of respect for that. I don't know how you guys do it. It takes a lot of work. I'm really hoping to, especially in this case, I want to see if I could pull them down selfishly to the place down the street from me and bring them into beer styles and wine styles, just because I'm selfish and I want this beer for myself. I want to be able to walk down the street and get it, or their other beers, just because I've enjoyed it. But there's a lot that goes into that. So again, you have to remember that it's expensive to do that. So when you open it, when you buy those, it's doing a lot to support. And I want to see this place stay around. Like I said, I'm super excited to go there. I can't say enough, great things about them as people. And again, my whole idea that great people brew great beer. I'm so excited that they held me up to that, because if this had failed, I'd been slightly sad at myself for saying that right before. So I'm really glad that, because if it wasn't good, I would tell you. Don't get me wrong. I like Tony. I like talking with Tony on the phone. But if I didn't like this, I would tell you right from the get-go, because if this sucked and you came back on me, my channel and stuff dies anyway. So this isn't me kissing butt or anything for it, because that doesn't get me anywhere in the long run. Me and Tony can get along and be friends out of it, but I need to be able to tell you guys good stuff as I see it. And having said that, I'll stand behind this. If you don't like it, the joke, we can go out and fight. I like it. I'll stand behind it. I'll stand in front of it. This is a good beer. And I'm really excited to try their others. So having said that, let's pop in. I think it's time for me to rate this puppy. I mean, I still want to show you guys so you can see what it looks like as I get everything set up for my rating. And we're going to pop in, show that. I want you guys to see. And actually, I want to come in for me and steal this one for me. This one's really good. It doesn't always have to be a high ABV for me to enjoy it. It doesn't have to always be a high IBU for me to enjoy it. The people, the place, the flavor, that's what gets it. And I'd buy this. I'd buy this a lot. Like I said, I'm a big, IPA guy, but this has a place in my fridge. I'm sad I can't get it quickly and easily, so I'll be making that drive to get this. And I'm going to come up and try your IPAs. I'm so excited to try the malty styles there. Other people said this clean, creamy, subtle body musty. Where did someone get musty? I'm sorry. Where did someone get musty, Tony? Someone be crazy at you guys who ranked it for you guys. I don't get creamy I get creamy. I don't get musty at all. So we're going to go, maybe it's something different from bottle versus the other, but I'm going to go ahead and give you creamy. It's got body. I will say that. It's got more to it than I think. I agree. No idea. Laura came back and I would pop it up, but I want to keep their logo or their name in front so you guys know where to get this. She said no idea. Oh, I have no idea where they got musty out of that. It is subtle, but it's not so subtle that it's watery. I'm trying to think of another really good name and stuff for it. It's smooth. It's just so smooth. I don't think subtle is it. I think smooth is a really good name for it. Velvety. There we go. That's a name I want for it. Velvety. I agree. Old Crowler might be where they got that from. But I'm gonna say velvety. It's almost like velvet in your mouth. It gets dry, but imagine if you licked velvet, you'd expect it to be a little bit dry and then it'd be smooth and then a little dry. That's what I get on here. So that's my ranking. Take it or leave it. I'm gonna go up there. Again, really good people. I wanted to give them extra time. That was me. That's why I pushed the other. It was just, this is a really good beer. I'm glad I saved it for last because I'm going to keep drinking it after. I'm going to go offline and just keep drinking this beer and enjoy it. And if anything, I'm just really sad I don't have it readily available to me without a 2-hour drive before Christmas. I mean, I might be grabbing my crowlers and growlers behind me and making a 2-hour drive anyway. I'll just, for my day job, post that to my cell phone and just make the drive and be online. I can answer those questions, right? I can be a tech in my day job and still make that drive. I mean, what's a 4-hour trip for good beer? I would argue that's a good trip. I'm told I'm supposed to share it with the wife and stuff on there, but we'll have to see if we want to fight on that. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. And I win. I don't know. As long as I drink it before, then tough luck. But she'll probably fight me on that, but I don't care. This is a good beer. Good times, good people. Their pizzas look amazing. The website's fun. Axe throwing sounds really fun. The only thing sad is that they're 2 hours away from me. I might have to move and make that work. I mean, I'm from, or not from, but I went to college at Waterloo. I have a son who's getting ready to go to college in Northern Iowa. So if anything, that just gives me an excuse to run up there all the time anyway. So having said that, I hope you guys had a great time tonight. I had a great time. I really enjoy these beers. Again, I'm not paying lip service at all. Do not get endorsed. Do not get from it. This is just me having fun. So if I tell you a beer is good, it is good. There's no paid endorsements. There's no other. This is what I think is good to me and my palate. So if you enjoyed the beers I've had in the past, that means that's what these beers represent for me. It's just something that I find to be really, really good. Or a great beer. So if I score it high, that's what I feel at that time. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have a hard time tracking it down, want to know more on it, and if I didn't provide you enough information, again, just look up Limestone Brewers, look up Worth, look up Twisted Vine, but if you can't find it, please, please, please comment on this video. I will still see it, and if I can help you find it, I will help you find it in your area. If they don't have it in your area, I'll provide you the info on how to get there. There's laws and stuff when it comes to shipping beer. But what better time to make a trip to Iowa than when there's not as many people there? So come on in, check it out. Check out the brewery. I guarantee you, Osage might be in the middle of nowhere, but this place is in the middle of everything. So go check it out. So again, I hope you guys had a great time. This is probably one of my longer Vlogmases because, this is what I wanted to cover. This is what I enjoyed. This is my fun. I hope you guys had a great time. And we'll come back with the tips tomorrow. If you want those geek tips, come back tomorrow. We'll get a Geek Out set up for this week. We'll have another happy hour probably right before Christmas. Maybe Christmas Eve if you guys want it. So let us know. We'll cover another happy hour. But I enjoyed talking with you guys. I hope you guys had a great time. And we'll see you soon.